This is Terrence Andre Banks with Information Age Financial Solutions, coming to you with another great article that I found. America's retail apocalypse is really just beginning. And I found this actually on Bloomberg when I was doing, as I always do my research and keeping abreast of what's going on in the economy. And this one just stuck out to me, of course, because of the title itself. Not a lot has been talked about the retail space because, again, mainstream media doesn't want to panic, and I definitely understand that. But this article definitely stuck out to me and is definitely one worth reading, and especially for people to just pay attention to. America's retail collapse is really just beginning, and this was done in November 8, 2017 by Matt Townsend. And of course, I'm going to read over it because of just the things that stuck out the most. The so-called retail apocalypse has become so ingrained in the U.S. that it now has the distinction of its own Wikipedia entry. Definitely worth my attention when I read that part. The industry response to that kind of doomsday description has inclined blaming the media for hyping the troubles of a well-known chains as proof of a systemic meltdown. There is some truth to that. In the U.S., the U.S. retailers announced more than 3,000 store openings in the first 3 quarters of this year. And they do a great chart here showing that, about how that number is growing, the cumulative closings and cumulative openings. But chains also said 6,800 would close. And this comes when there's sky-high consumer confidence, unemployment is historically low according to what is being told to us, and the U.S. economy keeps growing. Those are normally all ingredients for a retail boom. So why is more of the chains are closing and filing for bankruptcy and really distressed than during the financial crisis? That's caused an increase in the number of delinquent loan payments by malls and shopping centers. And then they give a percentage here showing the percent of retail real estate loans that are delinquent by metro areas as of September 2017. Again, this article was chock full of just information, great charts, and it's very colorful, so you can see out here where the number of retail loans that are delinquent. They do it by each state, and then the metro areas where it's most popular at. I'll continue on. The reason isn't as simple as Amazon.com Incorporate taking market share or 20-somethings spending more on experiences than things. See, they bring it down a little bit more further because, we've been told that Amazon is just taking over, which it is, but it's not just a simple answer as that the millennials just buying stuff for experience. It's much more deeper than that. The root cause is that many of these long-standing chains are overloaded with debt, and that's definitely worth repeating because we do not talk enough about debt. We believe that it continues, we keep functioning on debt, and we're not taking it into consideration because no country, no prosperity goes through prosperity by taking on massive amounts of debt without a crash or major transaction to move on to someone else. The root cause is that many of these long-standing chains are overloaded with debt, often from leveraged buyouts led by private equity firms. There are billions in borrowings on the balance sheets of troubled retailers, and sustaining that load is only going to become harder, even for healthy chains. The debt coming due, along with America's overstored suburbs and the continued gains of online shopping, has all the makings of a disaster. The spillover will likely flow far and wide across the U.S. economy. Now, I want to point out, Bloomberg is actually a well-known and media outlet. It's not, you may not know it as CNBC, but Bloomberg points very good information at that point, and they're actually, what's surprising, being very transparent here. There are billions of borrowers on the balance sheet of troubled retailers, and sustaining that load is only going to become harder, even for healthy chains. The debt coming due, along with America's overstored suburbs and the continued gains of online shopping, is all making of deaths. I just read that. There will be displaced low-income workers, shrinking local tax bases, and investor losses on stocks, bonds, and real estate. If today is considered a retail apocalypse, then what's coming next could truly be scary. Until this year, struggling retailers have largely been able to avoid bankruptcy by refinancing to buy more time. But the market has shifted, with the negative views on retail pushing investors to reconsider lending to them. Toys R Us Incorporated serves as an early sign of what might lie ahead. I'm glad they mentioned Toys R Us because it's a large retail establishment that's been around for decades. Toys R Us served as an early sign of the largest. It has surprised investors in September for filing for bankruptcy, the third largest retail bankruptcy in U.S. history, after struggling to refinance just $400 million of its $5 billion in debt, and its results were mostly stable, with profitability increasing amid a small drop in sales. Again, consumer confidence remains high, and they're showing the consumer confidence index here. Yet stores are going out of business. Consumer confidence is high, but stores are going out of business. Again, they did a great job showing it visually, sharper image, borders, Circuit City, Radio Shack, Payless, Toys R Us, the Sports Store. These are all large chains. Making matters more difficult is an explosive amount of risky debt owed by retail coming due over the next 5 years. Several companies are like teen jewelry chain Claire Stores Incorporated, a 2007 leveraged buyout owned by private equity firm Apollo Global Management LLC, which has $2 billion in borrowing starting to mature in 2019 and still has 1,600 stores in North America. Just $100 million of high-yield retail borrowings was set to mature this year, but that will increase to $1.9 billion in 2018. Again, they're pointing out some serious numbers here. And from 2019 to 2025, will balloon to an annual average of almost $5 billion. That amount of retail debt considered risky is also rising. Over the past year, high-yield bonds outstanding gained 20% to $35 billion, and the industry leveraged loans are up 15% to $115 billion, according to Bloomberg data. Even worse, this will hit as a record $1 trillion in high-yield debt for all industries come due over the next 5 years, according to Moody's. Again, I've mentioned in several videos, once you hit $1 trillion, you're definitely in a bubble. And the bubble is usually looking for a pin to pop them, and crash is usually imminent after that. The surge in demand for refinance is also likely to come as just as credit markets tighten and become much less accommodating to distressed borrowers. Risky retail debt to mature as credit market tightens. And they show another great visual here. The share of retail bonds to all debt in 2018, pointing that out. Retailers have pushed off a reckoning because interest rates have been historically low from all the money from the Federal Reserve has pumped into the economy since the financial crisis. I'm glad they pointed that out. Another reason why this article is fantastic, and you definitely need to read all of it. That's made them investing in riskier debt and the higher return it brings more attractive. But with the Fed now raising rates, that demand will soften. Now, this is where we a little disagree. I don't believe the Fed, even though they're talking about raising rates, I doubt that they actually do it once they find out any kind of rockiness, any kind of drop. Even a mild correction of 10% drop in the stock market would probably have them change their course. That may leave many chains struggling to refinance, especially with the bearishness on retail only increasing. One testament to the negativity in retail came early this year when Nordstrom Incorporated's founding family tried to take the department store chain private. They eventually gave up because lenders were asking for 13% interest, about the typical rate for retailers. Now, Nordstrom is supposed to be one of the high-10 retailers, and anyone knows that Nordstrom is really usually, when they try to take this thing private, no one came up because lenders were asking for 13% interest. This is fantastic. You know, just not fantastic in the good sense, just fantastic because people out there know, and they won't even take with Nordstrom. And Nordstrom has been usually known to be high-end and for basically for the upper middle class and the wealthy to buy the purchase in that area. Store credit cards pose additional worries. Synchrony Financial, the largest private label card issuer, had already had to increase reserves to help cover loan losses this year. And Citigroup Incorporated, the world's largest card insurer, said collection rates on its retail portfolio are declining. One reason that's been cited is that shoppers are more willing to stop paying back a card from a chain if the store they went to has closed, which where are we living? The ripple effect could also be a direct hit to the industry that is the largest employer of Americans at the low end of the income scale. Here we go. This is where it really gets down to the nitty-gritty. I'm going to read this part again. The ripple effect could also be a direct hit to the industry that is the largest employer of Americans at the low end of the income scale. The most recent government statistics show that salespeople and cashiers in the industry total 8 million people. That's a lot. And these are the lower end, that's what they're saying. During the height of financial crisis, store workers felt the brunt of the pain when 1.2 million jobs disappeared, or 1 in 7 of all the positions lost from 2008 to 2009, according to the Department of Labor. Since the crisis, employment has been increasing, including in the retail industry, but that correlation ended as job stores sank by 101,000 this year. See, a lot of the jobs that was created after the financial recession was retail and part-time jobs. And that's why when I'm reading this is why it stuck out to me so much, because most of the people work for part-time, or if they're trying to get any beginning footing, they usually work into that part-time and that retail space. And it says the most recent government statistics show that salespeople cashiers in the industry total 8 million. And this is going to be interesting because as they close, that's a very large employer of a lot of workers. And here they give another great chart here. Retail jobs lag. Compared to all private jobs, positions in physical stores have grown over the last 10 years, both in numbers and in wages. Look at this. This is exactly what I just stated, how it's grown in numbers, and that's where all the biggest, this is where they tout for the recovery because it came into retail jobs. Look how explosive growth here. It's almost, look at this line. Let me continue on. Drop considered coincides with a rapid acceleration of store closings as bankruptcy surge in many of the nation's largest retailers, including Walmart stores Incorporated and Target Corp have decided they have too much space. Even before the e-commerce boom, the U.S. was considered overstored, the result of efforts pouring money into commercial real estate decades earlier as the suburbs boom. All those buildings needed to be filled with stores, and that demand got the attention of venture capital. The result was the birth of the big box era of massive stores in nearly every category. From office supplies like Staples to pet retailers such as PetSmart, and Petco animal supplies. Now that boom is finally going to bust. With every boom, there's always a bust to follow. Through the third quarter of this year, 6,752 locations were scheduled to shutter in the United States. Excluding grocery stores and restaurants, according to the International Council of Shopping Centers. So they haven't even gotten to the restaurants and stores, which usually follow after that, in the grocery stores. But that's 6,752 locations were scheduled to close. That's fascinating. That's more than double the 2016 total and is closer to surpassing the all-time high of 6,900 in 2008. This is supposed to be the time of recovery. This is what we've been told. Is this really a recovery? That's more than double the 2000 and it's close to surpassing the all-time high of 6,900 in 2008. I always repeat things that's worth pointing out. Apparel chains have been far taken by the biggest hits, with 2,500 locations closing. Department stores were hammered, two with Macy's Incorporated, Sears, and JCPenney downsizing. In all, 550 department stores closed, equating to 43 million square feet, or half about the total. Again, they do a great visualization right here. 2,502 in apparel, 735 in footwear, 553 department stores, 1,933 home entertainment. And again, this is, you can definitely see those numbers here, and I definitely encourage you to take a look at them. All right, I'm going to end with this little part here, because this is where another point that where rubber meets the road, because they do a great visualization here. States like Ohio, West Virginia, Michigan, and Illinois have been among the hardest hit, with retail employment declining over the past decade, and now those woes are likely to spread. Many states such as Nevada, Florida, and Arkansas have only overly relied on retail for job growth, so they could feel more pain as the fallout deepens. In Washington, since 2007, retail jobs have grown 3 percentage points faster than overall job growth. I'm gonna leave it with that, but they show you where right here, where the retail jobs, they've been overly retail jobs growth by state, and this is just a great visualization to take a look at. And they point out the numbers. The numbers don't lie unless you're trying to skew them. Again, I'm scrolling back to the top. Check out this article. I read most of it right there, but it's definitely one to look at. It was actually in Bloomberg, which is a mainstream media outlet in terms of giving information and for news reporting. America's Retail Apocalypse is really just beginning by Mount Townsend, and that came out November 8th, 2017, about 10 days ago, depending on when you're watching this video. Until my next video, I'm out. Keep abreast of the economy. Prepare yourself for something that's going to change. I believe it's going to happen 2018, because they can try to push it off a couple months, but eventually this comes to an end. America's Retail Apocalypse is just beginning. Check out the video. Until my next video, I'm out.